Welcome back to lesson 7 of module 2, where we're going to look at tracking, and we're going to look at tracking to make our AdWords account successful. So previous lesson we looked at what an AdWords account is, what's inside it. All of that becomes more valuable if we track what works and what doesn't work so we can make decisions. So what we're going to track is something called a conversion. A conversion is a word used in AdWords all the time to define simply this. It's when a visitor to your website takes an action that you want them to. So that can be filling a form, it can be booking an appointment, it can be calling to make an inquiry. Anything that you want them specifically to do. Could be downloading a brochure, it could be downloading a white paper, it could be even staying on a page for a particular length of time. What matters is it's the thing that you want them to do as part of your sales process typically. By far the two most common are website form completions and phone calls. Obviously, if you're selling online and you're an e-commerce website, then making a sale is a critical conversion too. So that's what a conversion is. For the remainder of this entire training series, when we're talking about conversions, this is what we're talking about. Now you have two options with Google typically to track conversions. Google AdWords provides its own method for tracking conversions. Google Analytics also has a method for tracking conversions, and there are a couple of key points to note. The two will give different answers because they use something called an attribution model, which differs. Don't worry too much about an attribution model for now. It matters if you're running multiple traffic sources and you're looking at an overall entire purchase process. We're not. We're focusing on Google AdWords here. And for that reason, and for reasons of simplicity, use the AdWords tracking option. You will get accurate results that you can rely on for your campaign. So here's how we do it for a form. For a form, we put our tracking code on the thank you page for the form. So user visits your website, completes a form, they will typically see a page after sending that form and it will say, thank you for sending us your form. We will be back to you within 24 hours or whatever it may say. When we do that, we want to make sure that we have one unique conversion code per thank you page. What do I mean by that? I mean, online inquiry form is one conversion to track. Online appointment form is a different conversion. We have different pieces of conversion code for both, so we can measure how many inquiries we got and how many appointments we got, because in many cases an appointment is going to be worth more than an inquiry. So we want to know how many of each we've got because we know they matter to us. And where we possibly can, in our conversion code, we can even assign a value to that conversion. If we know from our planning work that a phone call is worth $50 to us and an online appointment is worth $200 to us, we can put those values in our tracking code so we can estimate the value of our campaign. So that's how tracking form code works. When it comes to phone calls, there are a number of options available. Google provide their own. So if you're running Google Ads, you can check a box when you create an ad that will allow you to use a Google tracking phone number. That means that you will be able to identify the ad and the time of day that a call was made from your ad to your business. Google do that. But there are a whole bunch of third-party tracking platforms out there, such as Call Tracking Metrics, Twilio, Analytical Call Tracking. All have their own strengths and weaknesses. We use calltrackingmetrics.com and have done for a long time. It works extremely well. But I've heard good things about the others too, particularly analytical call tracking. So the question becomes, if Google provided an adequate version out there already, why use something else? Well, the first reason is dynamic number replacement. What does that mean? That means if your website shows a phone number and a visitor visits your website after clicking a Google ad, If you don't use dynamic number replacement, they will see your regular phone number and they'll call it and you'll have no idea it was an ad that actually led to that phone call. If, on the other hand, you use something called dynamic number replacement, what will happen is your call tracking platform will have some code on your web page that will identify the fact this is an AdWords visitor, hide my regular phone number from the user, and show them a tracking phone number instead. Now, think about the importance of that. That means that wherever in the process a visitor comes to your website or sees your ad, they will always be tracked through the phone call. Even if that same visitor comes back several days later, because they first came through AdWords, they will still see your AdWords tracking number, so it stays relevant and appropriate. That, to me, is the single biggest benefit, that you don't lose phone calls. You also have the advantage of call recording. So you can use a platform, you can record the calls, you can see how they're being handled. It will also provide you the number of the person who called. So unlike Google, where you don't get to see who called, you just get an area, you actually get the number, how long the call was, how quickly it was answered, and a full recording of the call. You can also then do things like set up clever redirects at different times of day so different people take the call, and you get good reporting metrics. So for those reasons, we use third-party call tracking. It's much better than using the Google's in-house one. There is another reason as well, which is that Google tend to use non-geographic area codes, and their number patterns can look a little bit unusual and place doubt in the caller's mind as to whether it's a legitimate call or not, a phone number or not. Using third-party platforms, you can buy local or toll-free or whatever numbers are appropriate for your business and run those in your ads so your users can immediately identify the number and there is no lack of familiarity there. We can also track other things like downloads of white papers, video views, and other what I would consider lower value conversions that occur over a long sales cycle, typically business to business. To do any of this, you're going to need access to your Google AdWords account, and you will need that either you or somebody else on your team or your web guy has access to your website and can add code to your website. Doesn't matter if it isn't you that does this, but whoever manages your website will need to be able to put code on the web page to track conversions, and they must be able to follow some fairly basic instructions. So let's have a look how to set up a conversion code. Okay, I'm going to come into my AdWords account, and you will find conversions under Tools, Conversions. Once that's loaded up, I'm going to add, as like everything in AdWords, a big red button, a new conversion. Here are the options. We want to track website. In 90% of the cases, this is what you're going to click. It's going to be website. Select, give it a name. We'll call it Inquiry Form 1. And if we know the value of these inquiries, we can add that in as well. So each time this happens, it has the same value, and we think that value is $100 on average. We can choose not to assign, but even if you only have an estimate, which you should have from your planning work, it's well worth putting in there. If it's an e-commerce transaction and you vary, then you'll put in here, the value varies, and you'll have some little bit of coding to do to integrate with your shopping cart. But for this purpose, I'm going to put 100. I want to count all conversions. Now, depends on your business which option is correct for you here. If you value every single inquiry, even if the same person makes multiple contacts, use all. If you just want one per visitor, click on unique. I'm going to leave it at all, and I'm going to change my conversion window to 90 days, which is the maximum Google allow. The reason being, in many businesses, this person won't take an action the first time, but when they come back, I want to know that it was this person who originated from AdWords. Changing that to 90 days gives me the biggest window to do that. Click done. I'm not worried about category. And in optimization, we're just going to leave this checked to include in our columns. Done. Right, I now hit save and continue. and that's given me everything I need. What you now need to do is follow the instructions here. Install your tag. So copy the code in the box below and paste it between the body tags, so the HTML tags of the page you want to track. Remember, this is the thank you page for the form. It's always the thank you, never the form itself, always the thank you page. Okay, so typically you can just copy that and paste it. You can give it the option to email instructions, whichever is appropriate. I'm just going to save instructions. I've saved it onto my machine so I can now copy and paste that. And I'm going to click done. And that's it. That's it, ready to go. I now take that code and follow the instruction to put it onto the thank you page of my website. Now you'll see here that my conversions appeared. Category of other. The conversion window 90 days, but you'll see the tracking status is unverified. Once that code has been put on the web page, on the thank you page of the form, Google will periodically check the website and they will find that tag. They will know that it's there, and from there on, this will show as verified, and we'll start to see numbers appearing in these columns. They will also appear elsewhere in AdWords. We don't need to keep coming back in here to see conversions. It will appear alongside all our campaign data. So that's how we set this up. If you want to use a third-party tracking platform, then the one we suggest is this one, calltrackingmetrics.com. It may or may not be appropriate for you, but if it is appropriate for you, they have great instructions as to how to follow putting their dynamic number swapping code onto their pages. It's a single line of code. So with that said, take it away. Go and set up conversion tracking on your account. Make sure you have each conversion tracked individually. Don't put them all together into a single conversion, otherwise you won't know what's what. Bye for now.